Walters is the place to be this Saturday. The World Cup is on all day. Walters is located across the street from Nationals Park, just off South Capitol Street.
Now the pitch, swinging a long drive left center field. Back goes Cruz way back to the wall, and this one is gone. Goodbye into the red seats. It's a home run for Lane Thomas. That's his second of the series. He homered leading off the ninth inning last night. Home run number 5, RBI number 18. And for the third inning in a row, the Royals have a solo home run. It's Kansas City 3 and Washington nothing. Now Littell delivers, swing and a fly ball center field deep. Going back is Cruz, way back, won't get it. It's gone. Goodbye. Over the center field wall and off the sidewall to the batter's eye berm. Back-to-back home runs for the Royals. Michael Massey with his 7th of the year to dead center field. And with 4 solo homers, now it's the Royals 4, the Nationals nothing.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. I'm joined by Washington Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman of NatsJournal.com. He's at Nationals Park. What is it about Wednesdays for the Nats lately? They now have lost 4 consecutive Wednesday games. And what is it about the Nats losing games when having a chance at a sweep? The Nats now have lost 6 consecutive games when having a chance at a sweep. The latest, a 6-2 loss to the Kansas City Royals at Nationals Park on Wednesday afternoon, ending the Nats' 4-game winning streak and denying the Nats a 3-game sweep. They, in MLB's 2026 regular season, fall to 39-36, 16-22 at home versus 23-14 on the road. Good to have you with us. So you want Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. These things help us out a lot. Thank you very much for doing them. And as is always the case, thank you for listening to this podcast. So the Nats on Thursday are enjoying a 4th consecutive Thursday on which they are off. Hopefully they enjoy it, as they next have a stretch of 13 consecutive days with no off day, June 19th through July 1st. The Nats right now, of course, have a lot about which to be proud. But Mark, they on Wednesday afternoon did again fail in an attempt at a sweep. And in a season in which it feels like the Nats are conquering one mountain after another, that would seem to be the next mountain to conquer, the mountain that is the 3-game sweep.
I suppose it's a good problem to have. For all things considered, as you said, the Nationals' biggest issue here, 75 games in, is that they haven't been able to finish off a sweep despite countless opportunities to do that. I think almost any team in baseball would take that dilemma, that kind of first world problem. That said, it's kind of weird how this keeps coming up. Remember, they swept the Brewers in April in Milwaukee, and then they went about a month before they were in this position again. But over the last literally calendar month, maybe a couple extra days, but since mid-May, they've had 6 chances to do this, and 6 times they've lost the series finale. And I don't know if there's anything to that or not. It might just be flukish. It might just underscore the idea that it's not easy to win 3 straight games against anybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care who the opponent is. But at least in this particular one, it felt like a pretty flat performance, especially given what we had seen the last 4 days on what was otherwise this fantastic homestand for them.
We're becoming very familiar with the pattern, right? The Nats win game 1, the Nats win game 2, the Nats lose game 3. That's been the pattern. The Nats have been outstanding in game 1s of series. I mean, it feels like the Nats record, I don't have it in front of me, but it certainly feels like the record in game 1s of series is sparkling. But the record in game 3s, and when we're talking about 3-game series, not so much. But the important thing is that you keep winning series. And like that overall record of 9-1-1 over the last 11 series is tremendous. And so you do go into a game like Wednesday afternoons with a feeling of, if the Nats win it, great. If they don't win it, it's not the end of the world. Now, I don't know if the players themselves feel that or not. I know that a lot of us as fans and observers do feel that, because you keep winning 2 out of 3, like you're going to end up with a really good record. And if there is such a thing as let up, I guess maybe that is what we're seeing in some of these games. You know, this was an uncharacteristic game, certainly from an offensive standpoint. We've talked so much about not only how good the Nats offense has been, but how the Nats have done well against good starting pitching. The Nats in this game were not facing an imposing starting pitcher, at least from a result standpoint. This guy does have good stuff, but Luinder Avila was the Royal starting pitcher. He allowed 1 run in 5 2/3 innings, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk, lowering his ERA for this regular season to 5.50. Now, again, the stuff is is pretty good. He's a big dude, could end up having a nice career, but it's not like this guy has been dominant so far this season. But the Nats on Wednesday afternoon, just 2 runs, just 6 hits, which were a double and 5 singles, just 1 walk, just 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. An off game for an offense that, of course, has been so good.
The way I described Avila's day was this. If you had taken a 3-year-old, blindfolded them and spun around a bunch of times to make them dizzy, and said, okay, go pin the tail on the donkey, the resulting plot map of where those tails would be comparable to where Avila's pitches all landed today. Go look at the strike zone plot if you haven't seen it. It is all over the map. I mean, truly everywhere. And if you had no idea what the result of the game was, you would think that he had walked 4 or 5 batters at least and that he had given up a bunch of runs. And instead, he literally doesn't walk anybody till the final batter that he faced. Gave up a few hits and nothing else. Finally, the 1 run scores after he's departed the game. I think whoever came up with the term effectively wild, this is what they had in mind, because it looked to me from the outside like if they had just stood at the plate and not swung the bat, they would have had a good afternoon. And instead, they swung a lot. Now, I get it. Maybe the stuff was good. He's throwing 98. He had a slider that was 91. Maybe it was just tough to pick those pitches up, and what looked like they were going to be strikes weren't. But, man, it felt like they kind of let this guy off the hook, that he probably did not pitch nearly as well as his final line would suggest.
The Nats did see a lot of pitches off him, 91 pitches over his 5 2/3 innings, 59 strikes, 32 balls. And the Nats did face 4 different Royals relievers in this game. So, I mean, there were opportunities to get going. I know watching this game, knowing what we have had with this offense this season, I definitely had the feeling of like, okay, at some point the offense is going to do something here. But save for 2 runs in the bottom of the 6th, the offense did not do much of anything. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, 1 for 4 with an RBI double. Abrams in the Nats 2-run 6, a 2-out RBI double to the right center field gap to cut the Nats deficit to 6-1. Dylan Cruz, he is the Nats starting center fielder and number 5 batter, 1 for 4 with an RBI single. He in that 2-run 6 had a 2-out first pitch opposite field RBI single to right field to cut the Nats deficit to 6-2. Now, he got thrown out in an attempted advance to second base, but man, did he appear to be safe. Nats manager Blake Butera unsuccessfully challenged the call of out at second base. But I mean, you look at the replay, I don't know what was being looked at. Cruz was safe. I don't know. I don't know how you missed that when you see the replay.
You know, it's one of those where they finally, and it took a while, they finally say the call stands, which just means they didn't see any visual evidence to overturn it. I suppose that's one of those, if they had called him safe originally, then they would have let that stand as well. But it sure looked to me like he was never tagged, or at least certainly not before he touched the base. But I suppose it's possible that they needed to see something more definitive than they did. It was too bad because that was the one moment in the game you thought, okay, they might have something going here. Like, even though it felt like they were out of it the entire afternoon, they started to get that little thing going in the 6th, and you thought to yourself, okay, if they can put a few of these together, get themselves within 3 runs, like this lineup is good enough to have a shot at coming back before the game was over. And while they did get 2 runs out of that rally, that moment, that call kind of sucked whatever life there was, or renewed energy they had out of the place, and they never really threatened again after that.
It was so weird because it looked pretty apparent that the Royals infielder tagged the dirt before tagging Cruz, and that Cruz got his other foot on the bag before the infielder tagged Cruz.
Inside the line, down the right field line, off the sidewall. Abrams scores. Cruz heading for second. The throw there. He's out at second base.
I don't know. It really wasn't that murky, I didn't think. So pretty surprising that that was not overturned. We will call that a successful challenge for Butera, even though that was unsuccessful. But Butera was in the right. But I mean, otherwise, just not much happening with the offense in this game. The only Nat with a multi-hit game, believe it or not, Nasim Nunez. He is the Nat starting second baseman and number 9 batter, going 2 for 3 with a couple of singles. Man, he was on base like crazy in this series. Good for him.
Yeah, a big step up for him, as we've talked about all along. He does so much to help you win on defense and on the bases, but if he can just get on a little bit more and allow himself to create that havoc on the bases, that's going to allow him to be such a more important contributor to them. And in this series for sure, but even over the last week or two, he has started to find a way to produce at a level that allows him to really make a difference. And that was good to see. I was glad to see him get the start again. I mean, he hasn't played every game, and it felt like Blake Butera was saying to him, hey, you've been doing a good job. Let's put you back out there, day game after night game. Let's see if you can finish the series off. He had a nice day. It's too bad that didn't come in a winning effort.
His on-base percentage is .312. That's not like great. That's not awful either. He's just not hitting for like any power. He's slugging just .267, and his batting average, if you are into that, is just .223. But the .312 on base, you can work with that. You'd like to see it a little bit higher, and obviously you'd like to see some more power, but he is getting on base at least a halfway decent clip. But yeah, the offense, so good for so much of this season, but not a good day on Wednesday afternoon. Al Galdi here to tell you about Window Nation's Buy 4, Get 4 free sale that's going on this summer during the heat. But before that, the Window Nation look into the future.
Stretches, looks to second, and now throws the pitch. King lines one to right, slicing down the line. That's a fair ball. It skids by Malgeri and goes to the fence. Glasser has scored. King cruises into second.
Window Nation has a great offer for listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, the Buy 4, Get 4 free sale, during which you could replace all of your home's windows and get half of them for free. Plus, you can get your windows with no money down and no payments or interest for 2 years. The sale ends soon, so call 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com now to book a consultation. 866-99-WINDOW NATION or windownation.com to book a consultation, and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast.
Imagine buying your kid a toy only to find the batteries aren't included, or buying furniture but missing the tools to build it. Frustrating, right? Now imagine the exact same feeling, but you're paying way more. That is what buying business software usually feels like. Fragmented, disconnected, and incredibly expensive. Odoo completely changes that. Odoo is a complete, fully integrated business suite where all your apps actually talk to each other. We're talking automated lead routing for your sales team, seamless AI integration, and intuitive point-and-click website builder. It's everything your business needs to scale, saving you time, headaches, and money. Stop piecing your software together. Go to odoo.com. That's ODOO.com to learn more.
And here's the pitch. So a line drive hammer, deep right field toward the corner. If it's fair, it's gone, and it is fair and gone down into the bullpen. A leadoff homer for Carter Jensen. And on the fourth pitch of the game, the Royals take a 1-0 lead. That's his 9th homer of the season. He immediately extends a hitting streak to 9 games, getting the Royals off to a flying start.
The Nats starting pitcher in this 6-2 loss to the Royals at Nationals Park on Wednesday afternoon was Zack Littell. He was bad for a second consecutive outing off having been good in each of 5 consecutive outings. He allowed 4 runs in 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits, which were 4 home runs and 3 singles. He had 2 strikeouts versus 2 walks, 99 pitches, 63 strikes, 36 balls. And yeah, the home run was the thing. Littell at the top of the first allowed a run as he gave up a leadoff homer by Carter Jensen to right field on a 1-2 pitch for a 1-0 Royals lead. Littell in the top of the second allowed a run as he gave up a one-out first pitch opposite field solo homer by John Rave to left center field for a 2-0 Royals lead. Littell in the top of the third allowed 2 runs as he gave up back-to-back one-out solo homers to give the Royals a 4-0 lead. A one-out solo homer by ex-Nat Lane Thomas to left center for a projected distance of 411 feet per Statcast, and a one-out solo homer by Michael Massey to center field for a projected distance of 430 feet per Statcast. And that Thomas homer came despite Littell having had Thomas down in the count at 1.02. Now, Littell did then provide at least some length, scoreless top of the fourth, perfect top of the fifth. But the home run is back to being a problem. Zack Littell for last regular season allowed the second most homers in the majors, 36. And that starting pitcher, Jake Irvin, allowed the most, 38. And Littell now in this regular season, for all of the good that he had been doing, has allowed 20 homers, and that is tied for the most in the majors as of the end of this game on Wednesday afternoon. You've talked about, the fine line for Zack Littell when he pitches. If not for the homers, we're looking at a much different season for this guy, but you can't just take away the homers. The homers are, again, a big-time issue with him.
Yeah, as much as you want to say you don't get beat by solo homers, well, that's fine, except when you give up 4 of them in the first 3 innings of the game. That's going to be a little bit tough to come back from. And it is a fine line. And you saw in this game that he wasn't getting what he needed on the edges of the zone. And then when he did put it over the plate, they were just hammering it. His stuff is not good enough to get away with that. Now, he said that he just kind of felt off. The delivery felt out of sync, that he just didn't feel like he had it.
And so, right away I could tell that I kind of just didn't have it. But still got to go out there and get the outs and, just dug a little bit of the hole that we couldn't get out of.
So he didn't necessarily compare this one to what he had done in April during those outings. So I suppose maybe you want to find some silver linings there, that he didn't necessarily sound like a guy who is worried that he's falling back into the same trap that he was in earlier this year. That said, this is 2 in a row now that have not gone well. The last one, he didn't even make it out of the second inning because the pitch count got so high. That one might have been flukish. This one felt more like what we had seen in the past. And so if you're Zack Littell, you got to get this back on track quick. You cannot let this thing fester. You don't want to fall back right where you were throughout most of April, because he did so much good to fix that over the course of May. His May was fantastic. 6-0 with an ERA of like 2.20 and 2 homers allowed in 35 innings. So he showed over an extended stretch that he can be successful. So it's in there. I think we know that. But you can't let these couple of now ugly starts turn into something worse than that. His next one, assuming he stays on turn, is going to be against the Phillies. We know some of the thumpers they have in that lineup. I think it's going to be a really important start for him to get himself back on track.
So we've talked about how if you took Littell's, say, 5 best outings and compared them with his 5 worst outings, you'd have quite the juxtaposition, because he has been a high variance pitcher so far this season. I mentioned him having allowed 20 home runs. How about this? 17 of the 20 have come over just 6 outings. Like, the home run has not been a problem in every outing, but the home run has been a massive problem in a handful of outings, and so he has allowed these 20 homers, and that rates as the worst total in MLB as of you and I having this conversation. It really is odd. It's hard to think of many other seasons by Nats pitchers that have been like this, where the good has been great, but the bad has been so awful that the overall picture that is painted by the stats is quite bad. I mean, his numbers are still really bad, even with the very good May that he ended up having.
Right. And I think what's also weird, like, you look at the individual starts, it's not like he's giving up a lot of other hits, a few walks, but it's not like he's facing jams all the time, or he's giving up, these sustained rallies. It's pretty much one big swing, and then, in this case, 4 of them in one start. So I think he knows that. He came into the season with a reputation for giving up home runs. He knew that. We all knew that. It just underscores how particular he has to be with his command, and not just the command, but that also goes along with his mechanics. He needs everything to be in sync to have success, and if he's not, he gets himself in trouble. And I think it's probably one of those cases where once he gets into that trouble and he's not feeling it and he can't locate where he wants to, it's almost a lost cause. Now, to his credit, in this one, he did finish okay with 2 scoreless, because if he gets pulled in the 3rd inning, it's a long day for the bullpen. He got through 5. It's 4-0. It's not like he really gave them a great chance, but he did at least give them something resembling length to, if nothing else, allow Blake Butera to lay off most of his bullpen, most of the important guys in the bullpen for this game, so that they will be available to him on Friday in Tampa.
And speaking of the Nats bullpen, the Nats relief pitching in this 6-2 loss to the Royals at Nationals Park on Wednesday afternoon. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 2 runs in 4 innings. Mitchell Parker, 2 runs in 2 innings. Parker in the top of the 6th allowed 2 runs on a triple, an RBI sac bunt, and 2 singles, and he got bailed out by a double play line drive that was hit right to first baseman Luis Garcia Jr. for the final 2 outs. Now, Parker did then toss a scoreless and hitless top of the 7th, but Mitchell Parker does continue to struggle. He at the major league level now in this regular season, 18 games, all in relief, 34 innings, ERA of 6.09, whip of 1.38. But here's what stands out, at least to me more than anything. Parker now has allowed at least 1 earned run in 8 of his last 9 appearances. You don't often see a stress like that for a reliever because usually what happens is the reliever is demoted or is released before he is allowed to have a stretch as bad as this. But Parker is in the midst of a brutal run here. Again, at least one earned run in 8 of his last 9 appearances. P.J. Poulin tossed a scoreless top of the 8th despite giving up a 2-out double and then issuing a 2-out walk. And Paxton Schultz tossed a scoreless top of the 9th despite giving up a 2-out single. You noted in your preview for this game on NatsJournal.com, you had a pretty good feeling we would see Mitchell Parker in this game. We did, and the results, again, were not too good.
Yeah, look, he hadn't pitched in a week. It was the last pitch he had thrown was the walk-off grand slam in San Francisco. And so eventually, if he's on your staff, he's going to have to come into a game at some point. And with Brad Lord unavailable after throwing 3 innings on Monday, as we discussed at that time, that made Mitchell Parker your one and only real long man for this game. He's left-handed. Zack Littell's right-handed. If Littell didn't give them at least 6 innings in this game, and if it wasn't a close game, I think it was kind of a given that we'd be seeing Mitchell Parker. And the results, while they weren't disastrous, they still weren't particularly good. He turned a 4-0 game into a 6-0 game, and it felt like, okay, we're just going to put him out there to eat up a few innings, take the load off the other relievers, and maybe call it a day. At this point, I think that's the best you can ask of him. If he's going to be on this team, that's the role. It's the mop-up man. I don't think you should be seeing him in situations of real consequence right now. Maybe their thought is keep him around, hope that he can find himself again in these low-leverage situations and get to the point that you can trust him more in some other spots. But right now, I mean, it's clear he's the last man in the bullpen. You go a week without pitching. Why was that? Well, because the team was winning games and they did not feel comfortable putting him out there.
You know, for a while, he was doing okay. I mean, we talked about how he actually, maybe the Nats have found something, Mitchell Parker as a reliever, but that seems like a long time ago at this point. He is in a real rut, and you got to think his confidence is like at a rock bottom level at this point. You know, you would think a stint in the minors might do him some good. I mean, I guess the Nats maybe think otherwise right now, but he just doesn't seem to be doing the team much good right now with how much he is struggling and how he's becoming almost unpitchable here. Every time he pitches, you feel like the guy's going to give up multiple runs.
If your business runs on 5 different apps, 12 browser tabs, and 1 spreadsheet that everyone's afraid to touch, it's probably time for Odoo. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that connects every part of your business into one powerful, easy-to-use platform. So instead of wasting time switching between disconnected systems, your entire business works together in real time. Your team moves faster, your data stays accurate, and you can actually focus on growing your business. Let one unified system run your entire business. From the first opportunity to the final payment, everything works together in one place. Whether you're a small business or managing a large operation, Odoo gives you one flexible platform built to grow with you. Learn more at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Meade leads at second, and the 2-2 on the way. Swinging a line drive deep right field, giving Chase Rave to the warning track in front of the wall, makes the catch right up against the bullpen fence, and the Royals win the ball game 6-2. Lyle made a bid for an extra base hit, but comes up short in the glove of the right fielder, John Rave.
The Nats get this off day on Thursday. Next up for them is a 3-game series at the Tampa Bay Rays. The Nats have listed the following starting pitchers as probables for the series. Game 1 Friday night at 7:10, Cade Cavalli. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:10, Miles Michaelis. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:40, Andrew Alvarez. You likely are familiar with the meme, or meme, as Bryce Harper once said.
I don't even want to answer that right now because I know how many memes are going to be out there of me with a bald head.
Of the 2 Spider-Mans, or the 2 Spider-Men, however we should say that, where one is pointing at the other. That's what this series is going to be this weekend. Rays and Nats, Nats and Rays. The Rays are what the Nats strive to be from a process standpoint, not from a payroll standpoint, okay, but from a process standpoint, from a drafting and player development standpoint, from an analytics standpoint. The Rays, of course, employed Ani Kalambi and Blake Butera for so many years. The Nats have plenty of other people who have worked for the Rays, and now we have the Nats at the Rays this week weekend for a 3-game series. Tampa Bay at one point was the best team in the majors, has cooled off a bit, but still overall having a good season. So this will be an interesting series. Nats at the Rays, student versus teacher in some respects, and we'll see how the Nats do here.
It's a big homecoming for Blake Butera. Spent more than a decade in the Rays organization as a player, as a minor league manager, as a farm director. He has a lot of friends there. I think he acknowledges it's probably going to be a little strange. He's excited to see everyone, but acknowledges it's going to be a little bit strange for him. The Nats have several players with Tampa Bay ties. Curtis Mead, Zack Littell. I think at least one or two others maybe played for them at some point. There is a lot of crossover here. And as you said, there's a lot about what the Rays have done for many years that the Nationals are now trying to emulate. And they're not shy about that. They mention the Rays a lot. Now, you said maybe they're not trying to emulate the Rays in terms of payroll. That is still to be determined. I think we all want to believe that that will be true. That's going to be up to the people writing the checks at the top of the organization at some point to prove that they are not the Tampa Bay Rays, that they can implement the process, that they can do all the analytics and smart decisions to put a good team out there, but that ultimately their goal, I believe, should be to treat themselves to act like a large market club, which the Rays most definitely are not. We got a ways to go till we find out how that's going to work out. But I've been curious about this all along. There's a lot of good stuff that Tampa Bay does that they should be trying to emulate, but payroll is certainly not one of them, and I hope they understand that.
Yeah, and my point was I don't think Paul Taboni is trying to emulate the Rays from a payroll standpoint. I don't think if you're Paul Taboni, you leave Boston for Washington with the hope that your new employer will not spend on payroll. I think Taboni wants this ownership group to spend. It's up to the ownership group, like you said, and we shall see. Now, truth be told, there are plenty of teams around MLB that are mimicking the Rays, borrowing from the Rays. The Dodgers very much borrow from the Rays. The Yankees do a lot of things that the Rays now do. The Yankees are a big analytics team. The Atlanta Braves do a lot of things that the Rays do. So it can be done. The Rays process combined with spending money. And that's the idea here. It's not an either-or proposition. It never has been an either-or proposition. You can have a great, modern, progressive process while also spending money. And plenty of teams do that. And, hopefully the Nats do get to that point. I did also want to mention this. ESPN.com on Wednesday morning, a piece co-authored by ESPN MLB insiders Jeff Passan and Kylie McDaniel. The piece is a ranking of 100 potential trade candidates and top potential fits. The ranking will be updated regularly leading up to the 2026 MLB trade deadline, which is on August 3rd at 6 p.m. Eastern. Now, there were 3 Nats players on the list as trade candidates. Shortstop C.J. Abrams at number 5, starting pitcher Foster Griffin at number 33, and starting pitcher Zack Littell at number 84. But the biggest takeaway, at least to me, was how often the Nats came up among the potential fits for trade candidates. The Nats came up as a potential fit for each of the following guys: Minnesota Twins starting pitcher Joe Ryan, Los Angeles Angels starting pitchers Reed Detmers and Jose Soriano, San Francisco Giants second baseman Luis Ariz, and Giants third baseman Matt Chapman. Now, the piece only had potential fits for each of the top 25 trade candidates. So if you're wondering why the Nats didn't come up for any relievers, that's why. It's not like there were a bunch of relievers among the top 25. But the point here is this: how cool is it that the Nats in a big time piece like this are viewed as potential buyers, as potential fits for top trade candidates? And this is going to be so interesting what the Nats do regarding that trade deadline, which is still a ways away, not till August 3rd. So who knows what the MLB landscape will look like by then. But yeah, ESPN.com is putting out a piece mentioning the Nats as a potential fit for a number of potential trade candidates.
Yeah, and that shows how far they've come. I really feel like the last week, the last 4 days prior to this game, almost made this all possible. I don't think anybody was talking in these terms until they went on that 4-game winning streak, and they go from being at 500 to 4 games over and in sole possession, at least for a day, of the last wild card spot. It's amazing how quickly that happened. Now, that's also the reason that you say, let's pump the brakes a little bit. There are still a good 6 weeks to go, and a whole lot can change between now and then. Maybe they get themselves into a better position, but maybe they're in a worse position. And so that's why they're in this odd dilemma here where you can legitimately talk about them as a legitimate player for some of the top candidates on the trade market, like starting pitching or like a Matt Chapman, a big name guy in San Francisco. But you also said, as CJ Abrams, number 5 on that list, that's not a buy. That's a massive sell if they were to do that. And so there's a huge variance of outcomes that could happen here for them in the next 6 weeks. And my sense is that they're just going to be very much open-minded. They're going to keep plugging along like they have. They're going to let the team's performance dictate how they approach this. And once they get to the end of July, they'll have an idea. What are we? Are we definitely selling? Are we definitely buying? Are we somewhere in the middle? I really do believe that even if they are in contention and want to think of themselves as buyers, I really don't think they would do anything that would involve trading away a prospect they truly believed could be part of the long-term plan. I think it would be lower level, single A types, not top 10, not top 15 prospects. And so are you getting a Matt Chapman or a Joe Ryan or one of these starting pitchers? For that, maybe not. And so that's why I do feel like, and again, a long way to go, and who knows how it plays out. But I feel like the more likely scenario are relievers, role players who you could get for lower level prospects that you don't necessarily think of as somebody that is a part of the long-term plan here.
And with most teams now having smartened up, I feel like you don't see a lot of those trades anymore where a team gives up a premier prospect for a 2-month rental. Like most teams have sort of evolved to where they understand that that's just a silly thing to do. It often doesn't work out. And, you keep your top prospects and you maybe do what you said, like you go with lower level guys to try to do something like shore up a bullpen. But yes, the Nats coming up as potential buyers via ESPN.com. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website you could check out too, natschatpodcast.com, at which you can purchase a Nats Chat Podcast t-shirt. We also offer shout outs on the Nats Chat Podcast. Greg wants to shout out his son Kyle for his first official scorebook entry on Saturday against the Mariners. Greg is a new season ticket holder and had the Bob Carpenter scorebook ready to go once Kyle, not so surprisingly, asked if it was time to go home in the 6th inning. Loving the home crowd energy like tarps off, and I'm really excited for the direction that the team is going. Yes, anyone who has small kids and who has taken his or her kids or his or her kid to an MLB game understands that when you get to the 6th inning, that in the mind of the child is the 9th inning, and often it is time to leave, unfortunately.
Not even the pitch clock has allowed for young children to understand the importance of staying for 9 full innings. But good on you for getting them started early on scorekeeping. That's such a fun thing to pass down from generation to generation. I know it's not probably as big a deal as it used to be when you and I were growing up, but I'm glad to see some people keeping that alive. I have fond memories of, the first game I ever went to, my father kind of showing me how to keep score on the scorecard that we bought for $1 or whatever at the concession. So good for you for keeping that going, and good for keeping Bob Carpenter's side business going. I know Bob's retired from an announcing standpoint. He's going to have that scorebook forever. That's going to outlast Bob for a long time. It's still one of the most popular, if not the most popular scorebooks out there.
A brilliant thing that he came up with that scorebook for sure. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat, courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Next pitch. Swung on by Thomas and driven in the air to deep left center field. This is way back. Butera looking up. It's going, and gone. Goodbye. A long home run over the high wall in left center field for Lane Thomas. Bang, zoom goes Thomas.
Big color, bigger savings. Sherwin-Williams Super Sale is here. Get 40% off paints and stains June 5th through the 11th with prices starting at $30.89. Whether you're refreshing your interior or exterior, we've got the colors to bring your vision to life. And with delivery, getting everything to your door is easier than ever. Shop online to have it delivered or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Delivery available on qualifying orders.